Welcome to Meeple, uniting players around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more.
Hey guys, it is episode 83. Today we will be talking about the art of board games. We have a special artist guest on today. It's going to be Andrew Bosley. Gareth, unfortunately, is at UK Games Expo and was not able to join us, but we are lucky. We are blessed to have a fill-in guest host, a familiar voice on the show. We got Adam from Tabletop Vibes. Adam, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on to fill some
Great.
really big shoes.
And I appreciate it. You know, this is tough going on my own, so I really love that you're here. So thank you so much for that. So without further ado, I want to introduce Andrew Bosley, board game artist. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
We're really excited. I know we got a lot of questions. Adam and I were chatting before this about your project, Smoking Bones. So I'd like to start with a little bit of background, if that's okay. Because you are a prolific artist. According to Board Game Geek, you have 88 titles that are assigned to your name, although some of those are projects that have not yet been released, but you know. So I'm interested, how long have you been like an artist just in general? What was your inspiration and how did you get into board games?
Sure. So I've been working as a professional artist for now it's coming close to 20 years. I went to school kind of leaning towards like feature animation, um, concept art, things like that, and I did end up going into concept art. Worked for Ubisoft for 7 years before working freelance as a concept artist, and then just doing lots of odd jobs as a freelancer. I was doing a lot in fantasy illustration, different collectible card games and things like that as a freelancer, among a variety of other things in all different industries, just to kind of make ends meet. And then one of the clients that I had worked with for a long time, Fantasy Flight Games, reached out and just said, "Hey, we got a board game. Would you be interested in illustrating it?" And I thought, yeah, that'd be fun. Lots of fun. They knew I kind of was, steering a little bit away from some of the collectible card fantasy illustration stuff was heading in that direction. So they wanted to give me something a little bit different. And so that was Mission Red Planet. And then Citadels came right after that. Both of those Bruno Faiduti games. And they were fantastic experiences, but they were still like kind of one-off jobs. I wasn't like I've always been a big gamer, but it wasn't something I was currently looking like, oh, okay, I'm gonna jump into tabletop. And it really wasn't until Everdell that it kind of became the amount of work was coming in. I mean, Everdell itself was such a big project, and so I could kind of go, okay, I'm setting aside 3-4 months to work on this project, and then after that, it just kind of continued on. So, but it's funny because I love board games, and I've played, been part of our modern board game community for a long time. I was even designing a game and released a game. I actually kickstarted it the June after Everdell came out.
Okay.
I was working on that, going to Gen Con, playtesting this game, even before I was even considering, looking at working for clients in this community. So it was a very organic change, and it worked out wonderfully. That as the board game jobs came in, the concept art jobs kind of stopped a little bit, and it was fine because I was now in board games, and I love it.
So Everdell is where you became a household name.
Household name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a huge title.
Very huge. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So,
Awesome project.
how did you get connected with Stonemaier? Because then, you're also known for the whole Tapestry series. How did that relationship begin? Since it's part of the upcoming project.
Sure. Really just an email from Jamie. He just reached out. I can't remember the timing for all of it. It wasn't very long after Everdell happened, but he just reached out and had a project that he had in mind, and so we just started the calls. And I was aware of Jamie and Stonemaier. I was my favorite game has been Scythe for a very, very long time. So when he emailed me, I was very, very excited. But it was very simple. We just started working on this project after a quick email and a phone call. So
the work's just coming to you, like.
I don't. I still go to conventions. I still like. I don't know what I go to. I love to go to conventions. I shouldn't say that. I enjoy parts of going to conventions.
Sure.
But when I go, I mean, I am fortunate that yes, there's work opportunities that come that I get reached out to, which is wonderful, which is nice. But I still go to conventions and take postcards and go and introduce myself to pretty much every publisher that's there and just go, hey, are you ever looking for stuff for art? So
you're still in a position where you have to, forgive the term, you have to hustle a little bit still.
It definitely started as a hustle.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely was how the work came at first, but it's perhaps not. It's perhaps more out of not habit, but just I like to meet. I like to meet people, and I like to. I like networking in this community because it's a really awesome community. It's different than like in video games where I don't know. There's just it's a different environment. It's just a completely different environment. This is such a cool thing. So being in this community, being very much invested in it, it's actually really fun for me to get to know new publishers and build relationships. Even if I mean, there's so many publishers that I've become good friends with, different people at those companies that I've never worked for,
Right.
but we talk about it like, okay, let's get together sometime. So, so it's a little bit less of a hustle, but it's still a neat. That's my favorite part of going to conventions. Is I'm a gamer, but I'm not actually. That's going and playing with people that I don't know is maybe a little bit harder for me.
Okay.
So going and just meeting new people is what I like. That we have a connection in the community professionally is one of my favorite things.
Cool. So, it sounds to me like, okay, so the work's coming to you, things are going well. You've got this relationship with Jamie, which leads us to why you're here, right? You've got this new project, Smoking Bones. What can you tell us? There's a lot. I know that's a
Right.
big question. That's a big question. I get it.
Question.
Um,
It looks
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. So
thank you.
wherever you want to start, yeah, I have a
Well-
lot of questions and I don't know where to begin with them, but yeah.
Sure. Well, I'll jump in maybe a little bit of the background with it. So I've been working on an original IP, this world, and a series of stories for about 10 years. And so for the longest time, I just assumed, okay, I'm going to write these books, illustrate them. They're always going to be very art heavy, of course, but write them on my own. And then I assumed I would go to like not tabletop conventions, but more like Comic Cons, and I'd just get a booth and I'd sell these books, and I would never, 10 people would come to my booth and they'd buy and whatever, it would be nothing. But then as I came into the tabletop world a little bit more, and I developed relationships with people like Jamie, it really became like it was actually before I met Jamie, before we worked on Tapestry. I had this idea that like, yeah, you know what, board games are such an awesome way to tell a cool story. there's lots of people who don't love the theme is not their thing. My
Sure.
wife, she's plays lots of games, but like she could care less about a really fun theme. In fact, sometimes it turns, she doesn't play many of the games I make, but she could be. So, anyways, that's not an appeal to everybody, but for me, that's like huge for me. I love games that are thematic, and I love feeling like I'm immersed in a world. And then if there's some sort of world building or storytelling element, then that's a win for me. And Scythe was like that. So that's what, for me, I was thinking about Jamie for a long time, and Stonemaier. Like that was my number one. If I could work with anybody with this, and I was starting to go, you know what, this could make a really cool board game. And I was playing Scythe all the time at the time, and so it was like that would be great. But I talked about it among my friends. I thought, okay, someday I'll reach out to Jamie, but he doesn't know me, and we haven't talked. And then we started Tapestry, and it was kind of in the back burner for a long time. And then finally, at one point, not long after Tapestry was done, but while we were probably even after one or two expansions had been finished, I said, I sent an email to Jamie. I was like, hey, working on this. Side note, P.S. I've got this thing I want to talk to you about sometime. And he's like, sure, that sounds great. And then we let it go for a little while, maybe 6 months, a year. I don't know. I can't remember. But he reached out to me later on. He was like, hey, I haven't forgotten. You said you wanted to talk to me about something. And maybe I hinted about this might be a project or something like that. And so he kind of opened the door, and I don't know, I was kind of like nervous and shy to bring it up. And so anyway, I had prepared a pitch for this whole world, and was like, hey, this would be really great to work on. So and he was really excited in that first meeting, and he wanted to, we basically set something up right away. So I'm going all over the place with this, but while I was looking at that angle of working with board games and seeing if this world could be developed in board games, I was still working on these books. I was still working on this big story that the games would be related to. But that was the big thing when Jamie was excited about this, and we decided to move forward together in a kind of a partnership between my brand Wits End and Stonemaier Games. That was when things really moved forward.
Okay.
And I needed to
Focus.
I need to show that there's something real here. And so I started making stuff and making more stuff and getting things ready. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said you've been working on this for about 10 years. So I'm curious. So you're working on this as a side project. You're illustrating Everdell, your Tapestry, right? Did you sneak any, I don't know if Easter eggs are the right word, because that's not how Easter eggs work, but were there any elements in the Smoking Bones world that you inserted into some of your previous work just to kind of, see?
Yeah. Let me think.
So
I don't think there's any.
I guess the follow-up question to that would be is, once Smoking Bones is released and everyone's got their hands on it, are they going to be like, oh my God, I saw that in Tapestry. I saw that in, like, will there be those moments, do you think?
I wish I had planned so far ahead that like I had planted them in. There are lots of Easter eggs in a variety of games. There's lots of personal Easter eggs that I have put into games. But I think I had some hesitations. There is a major Easter egg in Tapestry. In fact, the I don't know if I should say or not. It'll be obvious eventually, but or not obvious. But the cover for the most recent expansion, for the last expansion of Tapestry.
Mm-hmm.
The what is that one called? The one that's more fantasy based.
Yep.
That is literally, and I asked Jamie ahead of time, like, you have this thing. There was actually a civilization in Tapestry that like is a city in a bottle, and so I was like, hey,
oh yeah,
plans and plays.
I've painted a picture of of a city in the Smoking Bones. Can I make that the city in the
Okay.
bottom? Yeah, let's
Nice.
do it. And so yeah, I mean, so yes, there's not a lot of Smoking Bones stuff. Jamie's loves Easter eggs, and so do I, and so like the door was open for that there.
Mm.
The funny thing is, on the cover of Tapestry is actually an Easter egg for the game I designed, Plane Crafters. So there's
Okay.
actually a big ship that's in there. That's the signature, one of the signature ships in Plane Crafters. But I don't think I was. I think I was. I don't know, either nervous to push that on too many other people. But anyway, long story short, no, there's not a huge amount of Smoking Bones. But moving forward, it's going to be in every game.
Right.
We'll just,
Nice.
whether my clients know it or not, I'll just put Smoking Bones stuff everywhere.
So, tell us, for those who don't know, right, who may not have come across any of the announcements. I'm not really sure where they're hiding, if that's true, but what is the broad strokes, the story behind Smoking Bones? Like,
Sure.
what's the world, what's going on, and what can people be expecting when they?
Sure. So the story is about a Captain Red Jones and his his tourist company called the Smoking Bones Travel Company. And what he does is he takes people to the magical places of the world. And so but along the way, he's dealing with troublesome tourists and pirates and magical creatures and all these sort of things. But something he discovers is many of these magical places, these wonders, as they're called, are disappearing. And so the idea is that there's a history, there's a personal connection that Red Jones has to these magical places, and so he has it kind of becomes his pet mission. More than that, a very big passion for him to not only discover why these wonders are disappearing, but also to then protect those that he finds, to find as many that to discover all of them, to record all of them, and to make people aware of them, and then ultimately to find out and stop what is causing these things to disappear. And so that is the major conflict of the whole series of books. It follows the discovery of why these things are disappearing, and then the efforts that him and his friends take to solve the problem. And so and then along the way there's focuses on perhaps the stories of individual wonders and how they came to be, and other things like that. There's smaller conflicts that make up, say, each individual book, but the overall story is following how that worldwide problem is being solved.
And is that a mystery that will be revealed towards the end, or is it early on discovered these are natural causes, or there's a nefarious villain or something, or how is that going to play out?
By the end of the first book, you're introduced to the problem, this is a thing, and then I think it becomes the full weight of who's responsible and what's going on is a bigger reveal near the end of the series. But along the way, it becomes pretty clear that there are nefarious things going on. It's not a natural disappearance, and perhaps it's you'll have hints of who the parties might be that are responsible for it, but who individually and what connection those people have to Red specifically. There's some bigger reveals to happen near the end.
That's awesome. Is there going to be a Kickstarter for the books and or the game, or is it going to be kind of into one big buy the game and all the books or whatnot, or can you not say that? Or
No. I think working with Jamie has the way he works with games. We're following his pattern, so he's no longer kickstarting games. So the release of the Stonemaier games will follow his pattern that he has for all of his other titles. I'm a big fan of crowdfunding, and so I'm as far as I can tell, all the books will be crowdfunded at some point.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm a big fan. One thing to point out, I didn't make it very clear in my description. What I'm so there are two different types of books that I'm writing for this world. The what I call the Smoking Bones Saga, which is a series of books that tell this story and all this conflict and all the reveals and whatnot. Those happen through this Smoking Bones Saga, which I am currently still working on. I'll release a book at a time, and I'll do a Kickstarter for those. But what I'm doing right now, or what has already been finished, is what is called the Smoking Bones Travel Guide, the first of I hope to be many Smoking Bones travel guides. And those are, I have a copy here, but they're in world. It's like an in world compendium that introduces people to this world. So
Nice.
there's going to be it's basically a collection of travel posters to these magical places.
That's super
So
cool.
if you were to take a tour with Smoking Bones, the Smoking Bones Travel Company, this is published by them, and they would, it would be kind of I'm going to browse through. If I'm going to Brandomir,
Mm-hmm.
then what magical places could I go and visit? What wonders are available to see? And okay, I need to remember those things when I book my grand tour with the Smoking Bones. So this is more of an introduction, but that is what's coming to Kickstarter in July. The books are in development. The plan is that they're. I've just been talking to Jamie just this morning. I double check often to make sure my wording I make sure I don't say too much, but the books and the games are very much related and
Awesome.
very much tied together. Not such that you couldn't play the games by themselves and enjoy them just by themselves without the books, but if you read the books and you played the games in a proper order, then it's telling a very big story in a complete form. And so the books, the stories, the saga books are planned to come out for the most part in tandem with the games.
That's
And
awesome.
so,
Okay. So it's going to be a book and a game simultaneous.
That's great.
Right.
yeah.
So in terms of pattern, are you thinking about travel book, then book and game, travel book, then book and game? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
I'll have to see how things go with the travel guide. So a travel guide, the very earliest idea for the Smoking Bones, before there was a big story, before there were games, certainly before there were books or anything, even before there was Red Jones, there were travel guides. Like I was actually intending to make just a book of travel guides of magical places in this existing world, in the world that we live in right now.
Okay.
And that's the earliest form of the Smoking Bones. And then as things moved on, I was like, you know what, I'm loving this story, and I really want to develop this story. I love telling stories, and the travel guide was always going to be just, hey, if you're in this part of the world, go to visit these places. It wasn't going to tell that big story. And so as that developed, I kind of put the travel guide on the side. And so as the games and the books have been being developed, at one point last year, I was like, you know what, I can't predict the timeline of all of these other things, unfortunately. But I would like to see something in hand. I would like to be able to give to people something from the Smoking Bones world. And so for a short time, I took a break from the stories and just decided I had already illustrated so many of these travel posters already. That illustrated these magical places previously. I was like, you know what? Let's make this first travel guide. So what I hope and I want to see is, a line of these books that, when they all sit on a bookshelf, it's just going to be this collection. And I promise in the back of the book that there are multiple countries, multiple kingdoms that have travel guides, but they need to be made. So
That's
the
awesome.
frequency of the travel guides will kind of depend on, bandwidth mostly. I've told other people, it's like I wanted this to be in Jamie's hands. He's been such a champion of this for so long, and so much has already gone in to the games of this, and that's going to be such a huge help to get the world out. And he put a lot of faith in me and in this world just based off of, a collection of art and a little pitch I made to him that I was like, no, I need to have something for him too. It's almost like once I gave this to Jamie, there was like such a load off of my, that this is real. This is really happening.
Yeah,
So
it was super cool because like I know you just dropped some pictures up on Instagram recently, and everybody's stories that I saw was popping smoking bones right all over. And actually, we messaged each other like 4 days ago or 5 days ago, and I was like, "Holy mackerel, this is amazing!" And then I even checked out your website. I mean, I don't know how you cannot look at that picture of like the balloon sailing in the mountains and then read that little excerpt and not be like, I'm 100% in. I'm a huge lore and art person, so like for me, it paints the picture, and then when I'm playing the game, I'm like, I'm there. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm stoked.
well, thank you.
Absolutely. So
Glad.
here's a question. So you've got it. So it sounds like potentially you have two, maybe three audiences, right? You have readers, you have gamers, and then you have the hybrids. Um, so for the readers who aren't gamers, people will be able to read your books, never buy the games, and they won't be missing anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I
Um,
mean, I, I I always compare how I think these to work. Like, the real big Star Wars fans are gonna think I butcher this, but I think about this in Star Wars. So, like in Episode 4, 5, and 6,
uh-huh.
uh, there's the big story that's
Right.
going on, but then we end Episode 4, The New Hope, and then we jump, and clearly some time has passed by the start of Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
And there's a couple times where references are made to missions that these people have that are like, I thought you were going to stay. Well, that bounty hunter we met in, such and such place made me change my mind. Clearly, there's a really interesting story there, but we don't have that. And so where the full story is going to be, the majority of the story is going to be told in the books. The games are like those missions, those side missions that our main heroes take. So if you watch episodes 4, 5, and 6, and you understand the story without seeing those things, but man, if you could read the book or see the short, the episode that tells that, how cool would that be to see
Right,
those in
right.
order and
Most
binge
definitely.
watch all of those things? That's what those games are going to be in this series.
And then the reverse question about gamers, because you did say you could play the games without reading the books.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine that would be, you know, if I don't read the books but I play the games are going to be a great experience in this great world, but I don't need to rely on knowledge of the books.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be times I think when, we might throw in something and it'll be like, well, that's a really deep part of this lore that's being mentioned. Maybe it would be nice if I had, but nothing that'll be dependent on. I mean,
Right.
we all play Scythe,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know. Is there some lore or story about behind Castles of Burgundy or
Right.
something? It's we don't need it to play the game,
Right.
but how cool is it to have that
Right.
little the context there? And so in the case of these games, the context will be this Smoking Bones world. It will be something, but for sure they will be independent games. So if there'll be people, I'm sure, that'll be big fans of the first game and not and they'll have their favorites because they'll be independent of each other. Um,
That's awesome.
but hopefully they'll enjoy the world enough that they won't be turned off by spending some time in the Smoking Bones.
Do you
setting.
have a favorite character or realm inside of the world that is like that's your like it's yours, but like you have like this is your baby, like this is your favorite part about or writing or creating?
In the Smoking Bones world,
Yeah, without giving
certainly.
spoilers away, I guess, right? But
No. I mean, there's characters. It's interesting well. I'll answer the question first. Red Jones for sure is. I mean, he's just devastatingly handsome, and so I think of him as me. Of
there you
course,
go.
he's got much more hair than I do. But so, but no. I mean, I've there's certain characters like Red Jones, of course, is somebody that I'm like, okay, this is the type of daring, hero that it would be so cool to be. So I'm super attached to him. But it's interesting. There's been I mean, this is been such a long history and has changed so much and evolved over the years. When I started when I knew that a game might be made, um, even before working with Jamie, I anticipated the hope that this would be a game. I knew there would need to be more characters than just Red Jones
Sure.
that you could play. And so I actually created a whole collection of characters that would be kind of competing, but in the lore of the world, they're kind of on the same page. They're friends but rivals.
Sure.
And so I built these characters and designed these characters, drew them up, wrote their backstories, did all of this stuff. And so there are certain characters for sure that I just absolutely love.
That's
I can
awesome.
share one.
When I hear of Red Jones, I think of like an action figure.
Yeah.
That's him. Boom. Well, each one it's been really fun to develop each one of the characters even further, and they've now become bigger parts of the future stories. They like each one of them kind of. I always like the idea that, I mean, I love Harry Potter, and I love how people will identify with like, or I'm in this house, you know, that's me. You know, you'll take tests to be like, what, you know, what character are you, or whatever. I wanted each of these characters to kind of represent maybe a different type of personality. So there's a wide range of characters that have different goals and different aspirations, and so I've gotten really attached to all of them. But there's one. I'll steal a picture from my my wall here. Yeah. Oh, and this has been like faded since it's been, you know, on my wall. This is a woman named Abel Fable. She's got a ship that is completely manned by magical rabbits.
What?
That's where I need to get in life, right there.
There we go. And you know, there's going to be some
Right.
people like, I mean, I want to be Red Jones, but certainly there's a part of me that would like, I want to spend all my time on Abel's ship. But anyway, it was just fun to kind of develop everybody's different personality. So sorry, the question was, is there anybody I'm attached to? There's a whole bunch of them, but I would say Red Jones and Abel Fable. If anybody is going to, if there are going to be two main people, most likely it'll be those two as the story moves forward. But
is there going to be a certain iconic villain character? Do you need one? Because I will step in.
You want to be the iconic villain? Okay. Yeah. There will be many villains in the series for sure. So awesome. We'll work something out.
Is there the possibility, because I'm listening to you describe this world and I'm thinking about a tabletop role-playing game rather than a board game, do you have plans to write a source book for a role-playing game set in the Smoking Bones world?
It is totally possible.
Okay.
I will give. I'm happy to say at this point, I have thought about it many, many times. I am not myself an RPG guy.
Okay.
I respect it. My kids all play. It was just something a wagon I never jumped on, and so I don't know it well enough. It would be something I would need the help of other people to make be successful. But I think in any world that you decide, if it's developed well enough that you're lucky that people want to be in that world, I think a role-playing game is a role-playing setting is a no-brainer. So I mean, I would love that if that could work out. I think I've even brought it up to Jamie and other people in the past, but it's also not their realm either. So It's not likely that if there was a role-playing game, it would be a Stonemaier thing. But I certainly have not closed the door on that. It would be very interesting to me, but I know how much work also goes into an RPG. So it's kind of something that like, okay, you know, if people have an interest, then for sure. Uh-oh.
Yep. Yeah. That's the wild fox? The
wither fox.
Wither fox.
Thing is cool looking.
Yep. So
You'll see
Okay.
that in book one. That
Okay.
definitely is an important part of book one for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. So I guess I'm trying to. I just lost my question.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. I love it.
Yes.
That is fantastic. So you've heard it here. If anyone's interested in working with Andrew to turn this into a role playing game, I'm not the guy, but I'm here to tell you he's open and possible. Because I've often thought, how cool would it be to play a role playing game set in the world of Scythe? Like,
Totally.
right? Like to be. And that reminds me of my question.
Okay.
I realize the game, I don't know where the game is in terms of its production. I don't, process. So I don't know how much you can tell me. Is at least the first game. Is it more board games have general kind of mechanics? Is it more centered on would the players be playing the characters? Or like would I play as Red and Abel, or am I playing in the world but not the characters?
Okay. I can't say much about the development of the games themselves
Sure.
and where they are along the road. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I think I could say that yes, you will be playing as those characters.
Okay.
So those characters are going to be important people throughout the entire thing. How much they are involved in the actual players in game one?
Mm.
Yes, you will be playing. You have the option to play as those characters.
Okay.
In the future, it may be very different, but yeah, unfortunately, I can't say too much about. I can say they are in active development.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm very excited about it. In fact, I mean, this isn't saying anything, so it's perfectly fine. I played a Smoking Bones. I mean, I watched the playthrough of a Smoking Bones game this morning. So,
awesome.
So
okay,
it's real. It's happening for sure.
That's great, and you're on the first step. So now I'm going to ask you the final question, the most probing, the most difficult question that we're going to ask you the whole time is, what was the first game that got you into our hobby?
It's probably a boring answer that like 80% of people say, at least at my age. It was Settlers of Catan. So yeah, I had been, my wife and I had been like living a miserable life playing Monopoly over and over and over. We were very competitive at Monopoly between the two of us. That was really the only thing we played. We did have friends that we played spades with, and that is still a huge favorite.
Such good. Love that.
We actually just had a spades tournament on my Discord channel, Discord server. But but no, we were just in a void of good games, and someone was like, "Hey, have you heard of Settlers of Catan?" And that was almost 25 years ago, I'm sure. And so from there went to Puerto Rico, and then Amun Ray, and gosh, so many different things. But yeah, Settlers was the start of it all. Like it is for many, I think.
You started trading sheep for wheat, and now you have airships touring magical worlds.
That's right.
That's called an upgrade.
That is
now that is an upgrade. I think we should do a crossover. I think the obvious thing is a Settlers Smoking Bones crossover.
Nice.
There's no reason to assume that Catan, the world of Catan, is not magical, and that Red would not take his ship there.
Loaded up with some sheep.
There you go.
Who's to say that Catan is not actually the Smoking Bones world?
Right.
I mean,
it's the lower level while everyone's flying up above.
Right.
That's right. I mean, I'm not saying that I gave them the idea for Catan, when I was like 2, but it's possible. And I claim it. It is mine. I mean, I've got a map in here on the final version. I'm putting Catan. I'm going to have a little island, and it's called Catan.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm just going to say, it's my world now.
That's
hey,
great.
There you go. If Jamie can get realms in his rolling realms, and you can you can make that happen.
Little stretch goal, little expansion pack, Catan, or
I should just
Catan.
I should just go, at this many backers, I am taking Burgundy. I am taking Europa, and then I'm taking, and they're mine now. And is that all I have to do? And I could just say, and it's like this big multiverse that nobody knew about, that suddenly they were all part of my world.
Right. Sure. Why not? Why not? Although I'm sure there's some lawyers who are going to be like, this is why not,
This
sir.
is true. It is possible. Someone will take issue with this.
With that, I don't have any other questions. You have any final thoughts, Andrew? Something you really want to let us know here for our listeners?
Just please keep a lookout for the Kickstarter for the travel guide. It'll be coming out July 30th. And we got a pre-launch page up. If there's anybody that's interested, and wants some more in-depth stuff, I'm not active on social media really, other than, the things I've been posting recently, I think is very temporary. As soon as the campaign is over, I'm going back to my hermit lifestyle and going to hide away. But I have an active Discord server, and we have a really wonderful community where we're just hanging out and playing games on BGA together. And I share a lot more art, and I share a lot of sneak peeks about the Smoking Bones. So if anybody's interested in that, then they're
all right. Cool. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being on and sharing your upcoming project. And it's July 30th on Kickstarter, Smoking Bones. And Adam, thank you so much for joining me and holding my hand through this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Are either of you going to be at Origins by any chance?
I will not. I'll be at Gen Con.
You will be at Gen Con. Okay. Nice. I will be at Origins for one day on the Friday, and I'll also be at Gen Con as well for one day on the Sunday. So we'll have that to look forward to. We'll try to check you down and chase you down, Andrew, and be like, get to meet you in person and say that I've met Red. I met Captain Red. There it is.
Yes. And don't think too much about how different my body looks from Red's body in the illustrations. I think real life adds 40 pounds. So
is that all? That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And stay tuned. We've got more things coming up on the show. And Andrew, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe. And as always, we love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram at Meeple to Meeple.